I'm sorry, I mean, a lot of trouble hearing you. Perhaps I can just go on about the situation here, which is that, the other big issues are the military issues here, and we've seen, as you've been reporting, that the other areas under Gaddafi control are simply not capitulating in the way that had been hoped by the opposition. Particularly, if anything, Gaddafi loyalists are pushing out from the town of Sirte to the west of here. And so that's the other big issue. Even if and when the opposition can move into Tripoli, how long is it going to take them to take control of the rest of the country if Colonel Gaddafi is still out at large?
John, it's interesting meeting the rebels who've come in to the capital. They describe themselves as being from Misrata, from the Nufusa Mountains, from Zawiya. You get the sense that their loyalties really are to their own region. Is that, do you think, going to be a problem as they try to come together?
I think you're asking me about, I'm sorry, I'm very having difficulty hearing here. I think you're asking me about regional support, and I think that is really important for the opposition here, that they get the Arab League and the Arab peoples behind them, and they really want to get that momentum of international support behind them, so they can get the money, but so they can get the legitimacy. And I think they are in a position now of enormous goodwill. They're an unknown force in many ways, the opposition here. People don't really know the figures here, and they're not very charismatic leaders amongst them. They go in with enormous goodwill when they do go to Tripoli. Everybody wants this country to get back on its feet again, apart from the kind of diehards, obviously, trying to sabotage things. And my experience here has been that there's a lot of very capable professional people who've been educated abroad, people who've been educated in Libya, good doctors and engineers and so forth. So there's an enormous resource here, let alone the sheer amount of cash and oil in the ground that could get this country running better very quickly if they can get the politics right.
Online, we apologize for the technical problems. We know them all too well here as well, but thank you very much for bearing with us live from Benghazi in the rebel stronghold. So those are the big questions being asked. We call them the rebels. They, of course, call themselves freedom fighters. But what kind of a movement is this? And can they really join together to take on the exceedingly tough challenges ahead? We're going to bring in a guest from London now, Norman Benoitman, who is a senior analyst with the Quilliam Foundation, which is a counter-terrorism think tank, indeed a think tank which looks at all the issues across the Islamic world where Muslims are living. Norman Benoitman, you've been looking at various groups that make up this rebel movement. Do you have any particular concerns now as they move to the next phase?
I think my main concern is the process of demobilization and disarmament. I think it's very important to pave the way to build the Libyan National Army. This is, I think, my main concern, But I think the NTC starts, I think, since the day before, or maybe yesterday, they start to put up like certain policies to make sure everybody acting under this like official umbrella, which is one chain of command under the Libyan National Army. In Tripoli, they established in Arabic we call it the Ghurfa al-Amniya, which is like a supreme security committee to be in charge of all security and military issues regarding Tripoli. And I think it's very promising. It's very promising.
Well, apologies to that. We seem to have lost Lise Doucette just in the middle of that interview with Norman Benoitman. I'm David Eads here on GMT, and Norman is with me, in fact. So we can perhaps pursue this a little bit further, Norman, because this is obviously a critical moment in terms of looking ahead to what the National Transitional Council can actually achieve. And beyond that question of the army, is there within the NTC the breadth and the depth of experience and expertise to cover all the people in Libya?
Yeah, of course. Of course, I haven't got that. I think the problem is not about like the specialists, professionals, and expertise. This is not a problem at all, I believe.
But they're not terribly well versed in democratic institutions. They won't have the institutions there in any case, will they?
Yeah, this is their duty. This is their duty to try to, I think, build everything from the scratch. But are they capable of doing that? The answer is yes. Are they genuine about the values of modern societies, democratic multi-party political systems, freedom of speech, human rights. I think all these universal, okay, values, I believe the vast majority, if not all of them, the key figures within the NTC and the executive office, they are 100% genuine about these issues, which is very, very good. The problem is, to be honest with you, we keep judging the NTC, but the problem is what kind of resource at their disposal.
And a lot
They
of
can't do nothing. They can do nothing without a real fund immediately. It's urgent because every single policy or every single decision being made within the NTC, how are you going to execute it and practice it on the ground?
William Hague, the British Foreign Secretary, said a moment or two ago 14 nations since Monday have now recognised the NTC. The Arab League has done it in the course of the last few hours. Obviously, South Africa is a good example of a stumbling block. Are you in a sort of state of frustration that it hasn't all happened at the click of fingers?
Yes, certainly, I am.
Right, but can you appreciate why it hasn't? Can you appreciate that there are governments who want to see more from the NTC, want a greater sense of belief that these are the right people to do it?
With all due respect, to like certain countries, like national interest, of how they understand it. But just, I'm afraid of one thing, maybe it's like some countries, they playing game to serve their own national interest based on our interests as a Libyans, while we are now, fighting. There's blood there all over the place, So I think the best thing to do is just like reinforce the capability and the capacity of the NTC, then we can judge, then we can ask more from the NTC. But tell me something, if the NTC, I've just mentioned the establishment of the, which is very crucial decision yesterday, I think, or the day before, being made by Mr. Mahmoud Jibril, about establishing a Supreme Security Committee inside Tripoli, and it's directly linked to the NTC itself. Without money and real fund and budget controlled by the NTC, I think this decision, it's a real risk. It's in real, and just imagine people there in Tripoli, including like the freedom fighters themselves, when they find out like every single decision being made by the NTC, including Dr. Jibril, it's just like something on papers. Why? Because the lack of the money.
Well, we will leave that question open for the moment. Nouman Benotman, thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.